Hey, bro, we're live.
We're live. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the first new edition, the Two Brothers Fishing live stream and podcast. That's right. We're going to take these live streams, trim them up, edit them up a little bit, and then post them to the, various podcast platforms out there once I figure out how to do all that. But for now, we're taking the live streams. We're keeping it going. Two Brothers Fishing right here on the Fish with Gramps YouTube channel. Waiting on our special guest tonight, Mr. Russ Snyders. We'll add him in when he gets here. But until then, we can talk a little bit about what's happening this week because I'm sure I know what it's on a lot of people's minds. And it's kind of funny that Russ isn't here yet because I was like not wanting to talk about frogs all that much during the podcast. Because it's kind of be a little bit of a distractor away from our special guest, who is, is somebody who's accomplished quite a bit in his career. But we'll get to Russ when he hops in. For now, we'll just go ahead and say, that's right, the Frog Fishing Challenge that's haunted Gramps for the last 2 years is finally complete, finally done. I know some people are like, you use the flapping frog. It's a hollow body frog made by Spro, case closed, contest done. It don't matter. That was the only condition that I gave myself, that it had to be on a hollow body frog. Mission complete. And with that said, later on tonight, at the end of the stream, there's probably some more frogs that's not in here yet, but that will be added to this bag. Yes, that's right. We are going to. No, I'm not giving these to Jeremy. I said when we finish this mission, these would go to one of you guys out there as lucky winner. The frogs from Debo, from everybody who donated. Now, I do have a couple of conditions and a few things. I am going to keep, obviously, the Freedom Frog because, hey, I'll still throw it when I'm with Jeremy and Matt and the crew out on the water. But, we got to have the Spro Freedom Frog. That's not, that goes without saying. We can't give that one away. I will keep a couple of the flapping frogs because I actually like them, even though I hate them with a passion. And then I did keep, and I will keep, one that Chad gave me when I was down in northern Alabama this week for the shad spawn. It's a white frog. He's going to be talking, and you'll see some video from him talking about this frog that he gave me. And that'll be an upcoming video with him. Thanks to Chad's wonderful guide service, we had some laughs, some cracks. I went to Gunnersville and almost skunked myself trying to go to one of the best bass lakes in the country and throwing a frog the 99% of the time. And when I started getting some ribbon, because, they knew it's still a little early for a frog bite, it's still a little early for a frog bite. We had our opportunities, there's no getting around that. But I had to stop and put the frog rod down for a little bit and then catch one on a thunder cricket and then catch one. Actually, I caught one on a what did I catch? A Cinco first. Had a couple bites on a fluke, and then I caught another one, a 16-incher on a thunder cricket. And then, we had some. You guys have to wait for the video because there's some comedy that will ensue. But yes, the frog fishing challenge is over. Now, if I decide to torture myself throwing these stupid things in the future, I will. But let's go ahead and get on with the fact that I slayed the bass down on Hoover Pond with a buzz bait after I put that stupid frog down. So we're done. Jeremy, how you doing this week?
I'm doing good. I've been making some baits, going to get on the water and test them out. Yep, just waiting on it to warm up and May to get here for mayhem.
I can't believe it's going to be 29 tonight after, it's been kind of nice for the last little bit, but and like Chad says, yes, there is some comedy gold coming. That is for sure. We didn't go down there and make the frog fishing challenge boring and uneventful. It's not like I went out there on first cast and okay, we're done. Let's get on with life. Oh no, we had some adventures of our own. You'll look forward to seeing their Chad shot a whole video and then I shot one as well. So yes, we'll definitely be having some fun. So stay tuned for those videos. But again, at the end of this live stream, we'll do a giveaway, and these frogs are getting out of here. All right, let me check. Mr. Snyder still hasn't joined us yet, and that's fine. I'll keep watching Instagram in case he messages. I've got the links to him, and I'll watch for him to join in on us. And then once he joins in, we're going to change the subject and talk to Russ about, and ask him some of the questions, because when you get a chance to talk to a not just a national champion, but KBF Angler of the Year. He's won Hobies. He's won the Bassmaster Kayak Championship. He's won the 10 Invitational, at KBF, and then the KBF National Championship. And I think last year when we were down there, I'm sporting my actual shirt and celebration. He swept the board by winning the Challenge Series, the Ambassador Series, and the National Championship. So, dude was, he is just a dude on fire. But we're not just going to talk about tournaments and stuff like that, too. We're going to pick his brain about, especially since a lot of you guys are getting, involved in the Knucklehead Challenge and Catch 22 and things like that. So, it's good to pick a guy who's, at the top of his game to be able to pick his brain, but also, ask some of those, we could talk about accolades and, winning. But bottom line is, when we're talking to guys like this, it's how do you catch them? What's your, what's some of your techniques, your preparation, and, listening to guys who really, really understand fish and fishing. It's a good way, even if you're just going out to have a good time, to to be able to catch some fish. So I know he's like really good catching smallies and so forth. So we'll pick his brain around some of that. But then we'll also talk about some of like the local stuff, like for us here in Indiana, we have our grassroots bass yakking. It's the clubs that kind of build and support KBF around the country. And but they're also fun to get into. And a lot of times that's what people kind of start in. You don't just, some people might, they might be that good, just jump in a kayak and go start fishing all the big tournaments around the country. A lot of times people get into it, like I said, with Catch 22, Knucklehead Bass Fishing Series, ways to learn. And Jeremy, it's funny because I say that you really just kind of jumped in and went for the national stage and didn't really, you fished the state challenge series for KBF and then qualified for the national championship. And I don't think you've not even done a club event yet, have you?
No. I want to do more of that this year. But I've set my goals, and so I'm just going to plow through, get that done, and see where it goes.
Yeah. I mean, and it's not like you're brand new to it. You've been a tournament angler for a lot of your adult life. You've been kayak fishing for fun for the last, several years as it was. I mean, I remember when we had the Walmart specials and we were running it on, various waters and kind of doing stuff like that too. So,
but bro, think about where we came from. We're at a whole nother level now from those sun dolphins sticking the rods down to my feet and getting rolled over. Yeah. I rolled on a log and my feet got trapped by my rods.
Oh yeah, I mean, I forgot you rolled out of one of those Walmart specials, and those were the sit-in kayaks.
Yeah,
and
the rods pinned my legs up in there, so that was not fun. But now look at where we are. I'm in a pedal drive that I can't give up.
Yep,
it's just that I'm so used to it now.
Yeah,
and then of course you're out there with your little remote. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, though, as much as I love the Old Town, that motor that Chad's got on his it's fast. That 1103, that thing just, it leaves you in the dust, but it's a 3 horsepower motor and it just goes. There was no keeping up with him. And then Ryan was out there and he's got a Bixby in his Hobie, and that was, that thing was pretty fast as well. But I talk about the autopilot. For me, it's a floating boat dock. And, I'm never worried about tipping over. It'll get me where I need to go. It ain't going to get there super fast. But then, that's part of it too. Normally when you're fishing tournaments, it's lines in. You're already sitting on your spot when you can make that first cast. So you really don't have to, you don't have to worry. For me, I don't worry about speed, but I can see where the guys that fish the rivers and bigger current, things like that. And then once you were taking certain tournaments seriously, tournaments really serious, to be able to motor to a spot like you're racing somebody too. But
Right.
how fast is it? I think Chad was saying he was getting like 7 miles an hour on that thing when I asked him about it. So it was pretty speedy as well. So
Man, I just couldn't imagine having that much power on the back of my kayak.
yeah, I mean, it was funny because Chad was just like, when you say he was hauling A, he was hauling A. I mean, it was like, and he probably wasn't even at full throttle half the time. He was just going it, the way he used to. But like he
Right.
says, the torpedo is fast. So I mean, something like that on the back of your, 106, get where you're going and then pedal from there makes it pretty. It would
Yeah,
make a
that
pretty
would be
thing too.
the best of both worlds.
Yep,
Because
100%.
for positioning and for landing fish, the pedals are a must. But yeah, I dream about having a torpedo on the back of mine just because, the river.
Yeah, and we had a discussion too, talking about okay, spot lock versus this and that. But like he said, however fast the current is, or however much the wind is blowing, he can set the throttle, and using his feet to adjust the rudder, he basically spot locks himself. So
Right.
it's one of those things where there's advantages to both. But I mean, I get it too, being completely foot controlled and things like that too. I can see that where you could literally replace, your rudder with that torpedo motor and then turn it and then still do however you want to do. So lots of
Right.
options, but it's really cool that we as anglers these days, especially in kayaks, you can start with the basic and then build it up to however you want it. Yeah, like he's saying, the best thing is fishing upstream in rivers. And, we learned that, some from fishing the river with Bobby and those, guys, the Freedom Squad crew when we were up in Indianapolis fishing the white. And I learned that from the first Grubby event, that I went and fished a couple weekends ago, where, it was beneficial for me. I could catch a fish, leave it spot locked, and, do everything I needed to do and not have to worry about anything. So that was a really cool feature of it too.
Right. Yeah, where I drift off or have to go to the bank to do the same thing.
Yeah, Ryan, you have to get out, and that's we got a lot of Grubby events going on these days too. So for those not familiar that are watching from out of state, Grubby is our grassroots bass yak, and it's our local KBF club, and we have tournaments like all over the state. And a lot of the lakes and the rivers that we do, they have 5 events at each one. And the cool thing about it is they have a river championship and a lake championship. So you can kind of go out and fish whichever way you want, depending on your style. But I want to spend more time river fishing this year, chasing those smallies. The first one I only caught a couple fish, but one of the ones I caught was my PB smallmouth. So can't beat that too. But, that's one of those things. I don't fish for smallies a lot, and I'm going to learn about it some more. So, we're going to have some fun doing that too. All right, let me check and make sure I don't have any messages. So I don't know we'll just keep yapping if we can get Russ in here. We'll keep an eye out too. And I see Army Outdoors. Ralph is in the house talking about wanting to get back to American Legacy Fishing. Make sure you follow ALFC right now, because they've been having a lot of stuff. They were doing another 15% off of used gear. They added like 1,000 pieces over the last couple of weeks. A lot of the times they can't keep up with the stuff that people trade in, and a lot of it's somebody will fish with something for a bit, do a review on it, and then send it back in, and it's brand new looking stuff. It's just Tacklebot Mike's is talking about the German Shepherds on the screen. Yeah, we'll tell that story real quick. Jeremy, why don't you tell them about the 2 German Shepherds and how they came to be?
So I needed a service animal. And so I got hooked up with an organization out in West Virginia, and they actually gave me and a buddy of mine a German Shepherd and hooked us up with the training back here locally. Well, mine was fine. but unfortunately, it was more of a commitment than my buddy could handle. And so I made a phone call and got permission to then give my dog's brother to another disabled veteran who happened to be my brother. So we actually have the two brothers. Mine is trained for panic disorders, and JT, you use yours more of a just
He's a
a regular
companion. Yeah, he's a companion dog.
dog.
Yep. So Jeremy has Bullet, and I have Gunner, and that's how they came to us, and so that's what they stayed. So yes, the two brothers have the two pups, and shoot, they'll be what, 3 in August, I think it is.
Yep. And
They're coming
normally
right
he's
along.
over here, trying to get on screen. He loves it, but for whatever reason, he's over there curled up. I think it's because it's cold outside.
Bro.
He's already lost his winter coat. So
Yeah.
I'm sure he's over there. He's got my blanket. He's fine.
Yeah.
So let's talk about doing some fishing.
Okay.
Because
What do you got coming up?
Well, we got
I mean,
mayhem.
I could talk about fishing, but I literally wore myself out over 2 days trying to complete this frog fishing mission. Chad was like, "Oh, you're gonna fish on Saturday before you go home?" And I was like, "Bro, I'm wore out." I will say though, I'll give Shimano credit. I've been using my frog rod this year as a Shimano X Pride B. It's a 7.2 heavy rod, and I threw that thing a million dang times, and I'm happy that they make rods out of lightweight material these days, because as much as I threw that thing, I mean, I felt really good about doing it too. I don't know how many casts I was able to skip frogs, into spots and places I needed. It wasn't for lack of effort this weekend, but I was.
I know that you love Hoover Pond, Hoover Lake, whatever we call it.
Yeah,
As
camp.
do I. I mean, yeah, fish camp. What did you think of Gunnersville?
Well, it's hard to
think
say.
about this. Think of it from this point of view. That's Pat Leake's favorite lake.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That he devoted so much time to. What was your thoughts being down there?
So if I had to do it again, I would probably hope to go to Chad's Lake first just to get Hero Lake. Okay, so that's what Chad's calling it.
Okay.
If I had it to do again in hindsight, I wished I would have went to Hero Lake first and got the fishing mission out of the way. But we didn't know. I mean, Chad was putting me in the best places to do the best things. And don't get me wrong, and you'll see it in the video. And I don't want to give it much away because it was video worthy. It was video worthy of when we were there. But where he took us, I can see why it's such a big deal. And Team Gramps for the Knucklehead Bass Fishing Series now has a starting location. I'd like to thank Chad for that, because it's the only thing on Gunnersville that I know. So,
I love it.
I have a spot. I'm sure Chad and his team will probably be in there as well. But I mean, no, and we want to do some research and things too. But it's funny being on the lake like that, where it's so mystical, and you hear about it and you see videos, from so many people catching a big fish. Here and there, I would see big bass cruising, but it was just one of those funny things that, definitely something, I told Chad, hey, we'll be back because we want to go back down there, in the next couple of months or so. And like he said, I was down there a hair early. But, just knowing that there's bigs in there, but, you could see a lot of the grass. You could see, it's clear. It reminded me a lot of Pisgah, with the clear water, the grass coming up, the stuff sitting on the top. So it would literally be something that we like to fish too. But, then again, we were just in one small area, and it's just one of those things that, any cast you can haul a monster out of there too. So it was pretty cool. I can't wait to go do it again, but just going to fish versus trying to achieve something, because it's like I always say, you can't go make a YouTube video because you want to go throw a certain technique.
Right.
And it just never works out that way. You got to give the fish what they want, based on the conditions of the day, the time of year, and all that too. But I was in a hard timeline. My birthday's coming up in a couple of weeks, and I knew it would be my best shot. Now, could I probably go out to seed tick within the next week or two and catch one on a frog? Sure.
Yeah.
But, why not use the opportunity? I'd already scheduled leave to go up to St. Clair, and, that got canceled. So I was like, no, I'll just drive 6 hours south and, have some fun down there with Chad. Was able to pick up some batteries for the Knucklehead Bass Fishing Series that we're going to be giving away to some lucky winners. And, it was a good time too. So I don't see Russ anywhere. I'm still watching. So, it was a good time. And, why did this? Hell no. I'm going to tell you why. I mean, and you'll see this in the video. I probably had a monster. I haven't gone back and looked at the footage yet because I really don't want to. I probably on Hero Lake, I probably had a chance at 2, probably over 7 pounds. And the first one was on a frog. I learned that my drag, I mean, I thought I had it tightened down, but it still gave just enough. And so, I mean, I think my drag is set so tight on that Corrado 70 right now, it's probably not good for the reel. But when I haven't decided whether I'm going to leave this in the video or not, I went on a little rant about how much time I was wasting after missing this probably giant ass fish. And, it was it wasn't the fact that the drag was loosened. It just wasn't tight enough. I mean, it's one of those things where I don't lock a reel down when I'm jig fishing, in swim jigs or anything else. There's always, a little bit of give just in case you have to. But when I went to slam these hooks into this fish and, and my spool just rotated, just enough. And it wasn't it literally wasn't very much at all. I mean, but it kind of surprised me. I was like, there's no way I didn't get this fish. And I felt it pull. I mean, I knew it was a big fish, but still didn't get the hooks in it. And so I was ticked. I had to kind of circle, take a break, say some bad words and things for about 5 minutes, and how I'm just wasting my time and fishing isn't fun, and doing stupid like this is just making fishing not fun. And I really had to talk myself, take a circle, but it was just one of those things where, okay, I had to reset, we got things to do. So I let that place cool down, ran down a bank a little bit, came back, and then, caught the fish I needed. But then Jeremy and I were talking about this yesterday. So if you've I'm going to get tips for softwater swim baits. We'll talk about swim baits here in a bit. Because that'll be a good question for Russ too, because I don't know how much he throws those big things, but we'll definitely ask that question, come back around. But then everybody knows I love throwing, a jackhammer too. And the problem with big fish, is there's so much space in their mouth for them to keep a cushion of water. That's why it's, sometimes, you can handle a crankbait and it stick to you 15 ways to Sunday, and then drop and stick in the carpet and, attach you by your sleeve, but so those big bass can suck them in and blow them out like nothing. And so I had another big fish on, and it just in my mind's eye, when this fish jumped out of the water, he came, it's like as soon as he felt there was resistance to this chatterbait, he came straight to the top and went, and I was looking at a mouth probably like this big. And I was like, whew. I mean, there was no way to even set the hook or anything. That's the thing about the jackhammers. A lot of times you got to wait for them to turn, like with a lot of the other baits, and then just hope that you get a good, hook into them, because, the jackhammer gets them to bite, but that blade also acts like a pry bar sometimes. And you always just don't get them hooked. But, that mouth was, and like I said, I don't even want to go, when I go to edit this video, I'll probably even more like, because that was the big fish. But it's really cool, knowing fish like that are there too. And then, some days you get them and some days you don't. But I caught a million fish that day on pretty much every technique: Senkos, jackhammers, Hellraiser. Caught one on a Hellraiser. I think the fish was smaller than the Hellraiser. There wasn't much I didn't throw. So when Chad talks about Hero Lake, that he's setting up for the KBF Fish Ops Fish Camp, that's going to be a good place. That's going to be a great little veteran retreat to take people out. And let me tell you about the crappie that I caught out of there. I bet I caught 7 crappie that were probably 2 pounds and up. I mean, you talk about making salmon searcher happy. I could have packed a whole lunch and then had leftovers for the next day with the crappie that I caught. And they were nailing a jackhammer. I mean, everything. So that is a cool piece of property, piece of water down there that's going to make a great addition to the Fish Ops Fish Camp going on down in the future. So it's going to be awesome. Hey, Gramps, was the Loomis bladed jig rod you had a medium or medium heavy? So right now I'm using 2 chatterbait rods. For the Mini Max, I'm using the G Loomis IMX Pro 873 bladed jig rod, and I believe it's medium heavy. And then for throwing the bigger jackhammers, 3/8 to a half with the trailer, I'm using the new Daiwa Tatula Elite. It's like a remodel, I'll call it, that Brett Ayler just came out with. They just relaunched the Tatula Elite line. And I'll tell you what, that is the best rod for jackhammers under $200 that I have found. And, it's pretty amazing. Everybody knows, for my favorite Dobbins rods, the 736 CB Glass is the heavy rod. That's for heavy grass. Jeremy uses that. I have one as well. I don't always grab it because I'm testing these other rods out, because, people want to know about, their favorite brands or various things. And then you have the 735 CB Glass, which is a medium heavy. So that would be more for your mini maxes, your smaller weights, or if you're not really chugging through the grass. So I like a medium heavy to a heavy when it comes to a chatterbait rod. So hopefully that answers your questions. Mike says he's been crushing them on a jackhammer this week, pulling them through grass. That's where the jackhammers are money. I mean, that's a lot of times when you go ripping, when it gets caught up in the grass a little bit and you rip it out of there, that little pause right before it takes off, and there's a lot of times when those bass are really smack it. Dig Outdoors said he didn't have a chance to go out this week, but did get a free trailer. He says he's been working on that. Once he gets it done, he'll be going out a bunch more. I'll tell you what, man, trailers and kayaks just makes life a whole lot easier. And that's like Jeremy, who, he hauls his in his truck with the hitch, thing with the Boondocks wheels. That makes it really easy for him to launch it and out, especially since he's doing it more or less one-handed. Jeremy, when are you planning on getting out next? You going out this week?
Yeah, I'll probably go out Tuesday. I was planning on going out tomorrow, but I kind of found a new addiction, and
yeah. So tell everybody what you've been doing this week while I was gone.
I have been perfecting the chatter gramps. I know there's a lot of you waiting for them, and I decided I'd jump in, make the chatter gramps. That way, Gramps has some to give away.
So, talk a little bit about our new relationship with Do It Molds. Let's why don't you fill everybody in, for those listening on the podcast or watching on the live stream, what we are going to be doing for Do It Molds from now on.
Well, basically, I'm going to be doing the videos of making soft plastics and jigs and whatnot. and then I'll send them to JT, and he'll edit them and do his magic and put them out for me.
So what benefit are you going to receive for making baits?
It's therapy. I mean, at the end of the day, I didn't think about any of my issues per se. Today, all I did was I sat here figuring out how to make it and get it done right. And I'll give you a sneak peek. There's one that I made that will be given away.
Yep.
So
Because we can't sell the ones that are designed like an actual chatterbait because that connection is patented, but we can make them for ourselves and use them. We can give them away. But that's one of the things that Jeremy and I realized when we were talking, and that's part of the reason why he and I are wanting to do this podcast, because fishing is a great veteran recreational therapy because being outdoors and, doing what we do out there frees your mind, takes your time off. But like Jeremy experienced, through the winter a lot of the times, or days like today when it was, 20 whatever degrees or raining, you're stuck at home. You're indoors. You've got nothing really to do but watch TV. It's when your mind kind of just gets in your own way. So now Jeremy has something else to do that can keep his mind occupied, keep him busy. And, it's another great, what we're even saying, form of veteran recreational therapy. And if there's any potential, he has issues with his biceps and things like that going, where he's, losing, some flexibility or use of his arm, keeping his hands busy, will be good physical therapy for him as well. For those who didn't know, Jeremy was a woodworker, a goldsmith, a silversmith. He made custom jewelry. And so he's used to using his hands. So since he doesn't do that anymore, now that he's got bait making equipment and going to be joining in my partnership with Do It Molds, he's actually going to be putting the order together. And our friend Drake at Do It loved the idea because now we're keeping a veteran, busy doing things, creating things, perfecting a skill that he's actually had for several years anyway. And plus, we get to make some cool stuff to give you guys too.
that's the cool part about it.
Yep. And so, some of the things Jeremy's got projects that he's going to be working on and making videos on. A lot of these baits that come back in, like he just got a box of, I don't know how many bags of slough plastics in it, but they were like older style baits and things like that. Now he can remelt those into more current baits and things like that. Put those into the veterans packages and kids packages that we're going to be, giving away and things like that. It just makes a lot of sense. And, no better time than no better thing to have Jeremy doing all that. And then he makes the video, and then I'll edit the videos, and then it frees me up to do other things as well. So it helps us both, create content for you guys and, keeps us busy in our own ways.
Yeah, we had a bunch of paddle tails donated as well. And so I'll pair some of those up with swim jigs and
Yep.
put those in the box too. I want to have a variety, but also where they can come and watch a video on how to fish what's in the box on your channel. I think that works out great.
So Beer Yak
My
Fishing wants to know,
favorite
what's your favorite baits to make?
my absolute favorite are swim jigs.
Yeah.
I have really gone overboard with doing swim jigs and a lot of just different color schemes that I think for me I'll have confidence in.
Yeah, that should be really fun. And plus a swim jig, it just goes through so many things. It's just
And this time
such
of
a
year,
such a
you can
versatile bait.
catch,
Yeah.
I'm looking for those 20s now.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the things we were talking about too, for those who didn't know. Each year, if you're a KBF member and you're, trying to qualify for either the national championship or the state challenge series championship, which are two separate things this year. So the state challenge series championship is in October down at Gunnersville and Wheeler, and then the national championship is in the following spring. So Jeremy has said this year that you wanted to do what? You changed some goals and you wanted to do what?
Oh, I was reading chat. What was sorry.
Oh, well, so your goal was to qualify, or well, we already qualified for the national championship by making the top 100.
Yeah,
But you have a new goal for October, and that starts May 1st, which is another reason why we're going to be chilling for the next 10 days until May 1st gets here. What's your goal this year?
well, so I have a really good sponsor that is sponsoring me to fish in the monthly challenges with the hopes of accumulating enough points where I actually have a legitimate shot of winning in October at the championship. Because, I don't want to just make it there. I want to have a chance to actually win going into it.
Yeah.
So, because I don't know if I'll be fishing next year or not.
Right.
So, that's
So in order to do that, you at first have to qualify, obviously, and then you have to carry enough points going into the actual championship so that you're there with the rest of the state leaders and so forth,
right.
To actually win the whole thing, because you get X amount of points throughout, each of the months. It's your best 4 months, and then at the championship, it's points and a half. So
Right.
you're going to be fishing like a madman for the next 4 months solid, which is cool because it also coincides with Catch 22 and the
Right.
Knucklehead Bass Fishing Series. So you're going to be going out and catching every fish that you can find. Me, I'm only trying to qualify so I can go. I'm not worried about doing that. But if we can, when we both qualify, I'll say that now, that way I can go because I want to be there to film Jeremy, have the drone in the air, and do all the coverage while he's, trying to swing for the fences and do everything he can. It's just one of those things. So I won't be tournament fishing as hard as heavy as Jeremy will, but Jeremy's going to be spending every spare minute for the next 4 months finding and catching every monster bass that he actually can. So it's gonna be a fun adventure. But yes, you have a great sponsor in your tournament endeavors, and it'll be fun to watch you go through and put the smack down on that leaderboard and gather as many points as you can going into October and going down to Gunnersville and having some fun out there, because you give yourself enough points, once you get down to the lake, it's a free for all.
Yep. So I'm looking forward to it from the idea that I can get out of the house and not have to constantly talk about giving myself permission to go. Now that I have it in my head that it is okay to go, now I can just go and do it. So I'm looking forward to that freedom that it gives me.
Yeah. Now there's people asking, do you need more baits? Do you need more plastic? Are you overwhelmed with what you have for now, or?
In terms of any just reusable soft plastic that I can melt down, that comes in handy for doing batches of the same colors. But,
yeah, that's true too.
I don't want anybody running out and buying stuff or doing any of that, because we're pretty good on what we have right now.
Yeah, we got 2 big boxes in. I mean, you guys are like, every year we do this, you guys are phenomenal in being Johnny on the spot with shooting. I mean, last year we got a whole bunch of different packages from a lot of different places. This year we got a couple, and I was like, okay, let's slow down. We got plenty right now. Yeah,
I'm actually
like Carol says, you got pounds.
I'm gonna build a wall back here that is nothing but baits we make that are gonna go into the veteran packs from, soft plastics that are sent in that I remelt,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. But I want to have a wall so people can see what it's being turned into. And,
Yeah.
we can talk
And
about it on here down the road.
And maybe sometime what we do is we ask people, hey, if you see, like, if you've got hooks that you're not using that are such and such size that you can use in the molds, maybe that's something that we look for. Sly Fox sent me, I don't know, like 30 pounds of lead, and just, just out of his, out of his pocket, shipped me lead that weighed that much. And, it was just incredible generous like that too. So I actually cleaned that all up, melted it down in the bars, and that's what Jeremy has now. But
That's
yeah,
what I'm
Sly Fox
using now.
really, really went over. And my dad had donated some as well. So we've got, it's just amazing, the generosity of the crowd out there who get it. But again, it's good for Jeremy to keep him busy. And it'll be stuff that we give away and create these fishing packages for folks. And then we got to even find any more too, because I'm even thinking we can reach out, since they're having that bass tournament for the Fallen Outdoors guys, maybe so we can find, since they do host fishing and so forth too, maybe they can take some of these, packages that we put together too. I really did
Yep,
get the
that'd be
coon
a
eyes
great
again this
idea.
weekend, didn't I? But oh yeah. So I wonder, I hope Russ isn't on the road and thinking we're in a different time zone, but I hadn't seen anything back in chat. I saw where he shared that he was going to be on with us tonight, but I wondered if at 9 o'clock our time, he's going to come popping in, but I'm keeping an eye out too. It's not like we can't sit here and talk about it too. Yeah. Like Caro said, we can come up with ways to keep Jeremy busy. I know I keep telling him to come down and mow my yard and pick up
Yeah,
sticks and
yeah, but JT, you got to understand, it would be more like me come down, sneak into your garage, get into your baits, open the safe where all your special, stuff is. Then
oh
I
yeah.
have to haul it to Caro because we got to divide it up, and probably gonna have to pay off some other. Yeah, like that.
See, this is all stuff I put aside for you. Oh, and your while I was gone, your kayak handle came in for that
Oh,
accessory
sweet.
that you ordered. So I stuck that in your box as well. So
Well, I'm looking forward to that handle because I actually ran into a guy that showed me that where he had ordered one for his.
yeah.
But in the meantime, I've already installed said contraption and I've had
Okay.
it out
Yeah.
on the water. But it'll
Oh,
work
good.
better with the handle
Right.
because then I can use the T track for my GoPro.
Yep. Good.
Because I have found out that I'm turning around and hitting my camera pole.
Oh,
So
gotcha. Okay.
got to relocate that.
So I didn't ask. I know that Scott and Cairo and I saw Sly Foxes in here. While we're waiting on Russ, what we should do is pull up the old Fishing Chaos site and see
See
how
who's winning?
our friends are doing in the which one are they in? They are in the
The
Fish Any Water.
Arkansas one.
They were in the Fish Any Water, or Just for Fun, right? Yeah, that's it. So let's go ahead and pull up StreamYard and share. Present, share screen. And we'll see who's leading the way. And then we'll do a quick check on the Knucklehead Bass Fishing series as well. Let's see, window, there, Chrome tab. That's what we're looking for. Fishing Chaos, share. All right, there we go. All right, let's see let's make it bigger. There we go. So if we go over to the Just for Fun, we'll look and see whose name we see. Yep, there's Antoine Hayes. Got to pull up the full leaderboard so we can see how Caro and Sly Fox and who all is it? It's Caro, Sly Fox, and who? Scott? You'll have to tell me. Oh, there's Austin Hoover in here. That's Chad's son. Ryan Rice, Mr. RGM Fishtails, Matt Kiefers in 41st. There's John Gittner. I actually have John's new Jackson Coosa kayak sitting out here on my trailer. He actually won that in the Catch 22 Challenge. So I picked that up for him and brought it up. There's Fluke Master in 54th. Oh, look at there. Old JT right there in 63rd. I'll take some of there's Cairo. Oh, you mean I passed Cairo up just that fast? I must have been slaying him a little bit. Where's Sly Fox? Is she kicking all their butts? She must be kicking all their butts. I don't even know where they're at. So I'm just going to assume that, Cairo's just whipping their butts, and that's just the way it goes. Oh, so you didn't get into Sly Fox didn't get into the NE 22. So
He's
you're in
in
the is
Black
he
Bass.
just doing the Ohio? So they're probably just comparing numbers. So yeah, I went ahead and passed Cairo up while I was down in Alabama. But the funny thing is, my bigger fish actually came up here from Indiana because I had that 19 and I had that 18 and a half inch smallie. So, yep, I'm putting fish in there too. Let's see, there's Liz, but I know she's got more fish, more inches than that because she's actually. So let's go ahead and go back. We'll go to the Trail and Club and we shall check the knucklehead bass fishing and see where everybody is for the Gramps tournament. And here at the end of the month, when we get into May, I will draw a winner for one of these Dakota Lithium battery, a 23, or a Dakota Lithium power box, or a Lose Rod and Reel combo, tier 1. That'll be a nice prize as well. Let's see. Let me check and make sure I'm not getting anything from Russ. Nope, not yet. And if you guys didn't know, let's go ahead and announce this now. John Cruz has now jumped into the Knucklehead Bass Fishing Series. Larry Melton Jr. is now in. So, yeah, it's going to get real interesting. Oh, there's John Long. Oh, Liz is breathing down his neck, still just 2 inches behind. So we got all kinds of contenders in there. There's Charles Fox, the good old friend Sly Fox Fishing. There's our buddy OEF5. Yep, everybody is hammering down, and we'll be starting the May before too long. Kara says it's going to rain all week. I'm going to fish anyway. Yeah, you can keep all the fishing in the rain. Mike says he is in 12th. That's excellent. And that's the key thing. As long as you're in, you can win because the prizes that I will be giving away aren't based on anybody winning, losing, this and that. It's going to be random picks each month. And then at the end of the whole thing, everybody who participated goes into the big spinning wheel, and we'll be drawing and giving away an Old Town Fishing kayak that will be shipped straight to your door. So, yep, we're going to be working on that too. So get your friends in here, get everybody involved. Let's have a good time. Raise some money for the Fallen Outdoors Indiana chapter. And, give yourself a good chance for lots of prizes, too. There's Jeremy right there in 16th, so he's been out there chasing him as well. So, heck yeah.
I think I've had those 5 for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah,
I
probably.
need to get out and actually catch some bigger fish.
So, Mike, I actually brought this up to Chad, and he said, Bologna. He says, there are so many 20-inch fish up in the north, because you got to think smallmouth, they get big too. Said, anybody throws up a bunch of 20s, you're giving yourself a chance to win every month. So, it's one of those things. But the key thing is not always making our team, but being able to go catch 5 and go down and do the Friday fan fish off on Gunnersville when it's wide open for anybody. So once you get on that lake, then it's a free for all. So then I always say people in the Midwest can catch them better than, pretty much anybody else in the country because we have to work a lot harder to catch them, especially catch big ones. And if you go someplace that's loaded with them, you got a pretty good shot. Bobby said he's been out there jacking jaws on that new rod. Yeah, he caught a 22-inch bass in Indiana today. So don't let, that's we're in Florida. There's big fish everywhere. You just never know when you can catch one. That was a pretty fish too. Whew. Such a monster.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've had a 22 on the board.
I don't think I've ever put 22 on a catch board, so I'm looking forward to.
Well, not on the catch board. I got my old golden rule.
Old golden, golden rule, yeah. That is faux show. So people ask some questions because we're just doing a free for all right now until we see if Russ gets here. My fear is that he just saw this a couple minutes ago, so he might have got tied up doing something. So we'll see if he can't get in. He hasn't sent me a message yet. My fear is he thought it was actually 8, Central or something else, and he'd probably show up here at 9 o'clock. If not, we'll go to about 9:15 or so, and do our drawing and then try to get him back on too. But hopefully we can get him here in a little bit to pick his brain some.
Well, I'm going to let you kind of talk to them and answer questions while I take a quick commercial break.
So Ryan wants to know if there's any plans for the John boat. Right now, my son is going to keep a hold of that because he has got he's got a couple veteran buddies that he's thinking about trying to repurpose that boat. And honestly, in my family, there's nobody better that I could think of. He served as a combat medic and deployed to Kandahar with the Big Red One for 9 months. And if there's anybody in my family that's what I consider the most qualified to put that, if your buddy was wanting somebody who was a service member to take and put that thing to use, Shane is probably the most needing person that I know of. He got out and he's raising 2 girls. They're all excited to go out and learn how to fish. And Sly Fox, yes, I'm keeping the one that you gave me, and it's going to stay up here on the wall, or whichever one it was that I took and put on. Actually, the one with the bent hooks, that will stay on the Fishmas tree. And I think one that you sent me is still back here on the wall in the package, and that'll stay up there where it belongs. So, yeah, I'll keep him, but I ain't fishing with him. But yeah, right. So for somebody who's asking, who wants to, is curious about Ryan's question here, he had a buddy who his father passed away, and the guy didn't want to just sell this he had an old John boat with some fishing stuff, and Ryan reached out to me and said, "Hey, do you know any veterans that could put a John boat to use? We want to donate it to a good cause," And I was like, you know what? I said, if anything, I will keep it, title it, and tag it, and keep it in my yard. And whenever we do a Freedom Squad get together, then, we have a John boat in case somebody is not able to get out and get into a kayak. And we have another boat that is, available for use. And so in talking to my son, I was like, hey, buddy, can you go meet Ryan and pick it up for me? That way, he doesn't have to drive south. I don't have to drive north. They both, were not too far from each other. So, Ryan dropped the kayak there, the John boat off over at Shane's house. And Shane is like, you know what? I'll just keep it up here. When we have any events, then I will bring it. But he is wanting to kind of fix it up, do some work on it, and, use it to take his daughters out. Even though I have a boat for such things, he thinks it'd be a fun way to get the girls involved and, get them interested in doing some fishing and, do that too. So that way it's up there, it'll be in use, and then we'll have it readily available, from Shane to take people out and go fishing. Because, Shane's fished his whole life too. So he could actually help us instruct and things like that too. So I have a trolling motor, I have a battery, I have a battery charger, And so we're going to fix that John boat up and keep it available for Freedom Squad events. But, we're also going to, he's also going to put it to work so it just doesn't sit around doing nothing. He knows, we know what the intent.
Have to get him and the girls up on the river in it.
No, not the river.
Oh, come on.
It's a John boat, dude. And Pisgah's about as far as that thing needs to go.
Okay, well, it's close enough.
It's a flat bottom John boat, so it's like what Uncle Harold used to have.
Right.
So, Shane's like, calm water ponds, things like that. If it was a V bottom, I'd be all over the river in that thing. But
see, I like the flat bottom in the river with the jet motor on the back.
Well,
but crazy like that. So
this boat is tired, and so it's still got some life left in it. And so Shane's gonna, like I said, do some work on it, and bring it back to life a little bit, because he actually helped me with a few projects when we were, when he was younger too. But I think we might have a guest popping in the stream here in a second.
Right.
So we will quickly change the subject from all of that too. But again, Ryan, thank your buddy for that too. We're definitely going to put that John boat to use. We're going to keep it for Freedom Squad events, and Shane's going to bring it back to life. And like I said, I've got, a battery, a trolling motor, things like that to do it too. So with that, let's see. I don't see a picture yet, but let's see if he's probably still working his way in, and I'll wait till I see him on my little screen before I bring him in. Bluegrass Bassin says, "What's up, Gramps? Hope you've been smashing them out there." I had a pretty good last couple of days. I went down to northern Alabama, hang out at the KBF headquarters, and put the Kayak to use. Caught a bunch of fish, and now that I got the frog challenge over with, there he is. Now we got the frog challenge over with. We're going to be focusing on some local club tournaments and things like that, and getting ready for the State Challenge Series Championship in October. And with that said, we're going to switch conversation topics over and see if we have our good friend Russ Snyders in the house tonight. What's up, good sir?
Hey, how's it going? Looks like you guys been on for a while. Was it 8 Eastern? Because
we thought you might have been. So it's cool, because I've been down at Hoover's, KBF headquarters this last week, chasing the stupid frogfish and doing some other stuff too. So we had some fun.
Sorry, I held you up. I thought it was 8 Central for some reason. I'm like, all right, I'm 5 minutes early. Sorry.
It's all good, man. We're just glad to have you here, man. So for those who didn't know, I mean, Jeremy and I met Russ last year at the KBF National Championship. And for us, we're just, two Joes who worked to qualify because we just wanted to go and be a part of such a cool event, and, and be able to meet a lot of the people that we watch, fishing the kind of the pro tournament trail around the country. And, after this guy ends up like winning the whole thing, and like, awesome. I mean, it was a great thing to see. But I mean, it's kind of funny, because what a lot of people don't see is, you always see like the people in the results and things like that. But Russ had Jeff Little running around and filming everything. And just to watch this guy go through and operate on the river the way he was, it was something truly amazing. But let me back up a little bit.
Thank you.
Welcome, Russ, to the Two Brothers Fishing Podcast. This is something brand new. Yeah, oh yeah, this is something brand new that we're moving away from the Gramps Live and going to Two Brothers Fishing, and kind of getting more and more. I started the channel back in the day to kind of teach basics and things like that, but now that we're so absorbed into kayak bass fishing, it's just become kind of an obsession with us and a thing. But both as fans, but then as students that want to learn too. But if you would kind of introduce yourself a little bit. Now, most of my audience is they're newer anglers or anglers coming back to fishing after being a long time away. COVID, as you know, probably drove a lot of people out to the water for the first time, and Jeremy and I have been kayak fishing for a while, but we didn't even know about tournaments until like a couple years ago. So kind of, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into fishing, and, just like your basic background.
Sure. Oh, yeah. My name's Russ Snyders. I grew up in Northern California. Did all kinds of fishing, started fishing at an early age. Did a little bit of saltwater fishing. My dad would go out there and do some of that. Did a little bit of fly fishing up in the Sierras, and got into bass fishing at a pretty early age, but started tournament fishing right around 16, 17 years old. Started doing some bass boat tournaments out there, and eventually kind of got out of that, got into guiding. And then about 10 years ago, when I was 30, 41 now, so a little over 10 years ago, I came out to Tennessee with a couple friends, moved out here, and got into kayak tournaments not too long, maybe 4 years after that. Been doing tournaments, kayak tournaments, about 6-7 years now. And really, I got into it just as a way of meeting new friends that fished. Found a Facebook group, Kayak Bass Fishing Tennessee. It's just a local club here in Nashville. And I was fishing a lot of the creeks and rivers and stuff like that. And a lot of times I'd, just be out there by myself doing float trips. I'd leave my bike at the takeout, and then I'd drive back up, float down, and ride my bike back to my truck and whatnot. And I was like, I need to find a few float partners. So I, joined this bass fishing club, Kayak Bass Fishing Tennessee. They had local tournaments just at Percy Priest, Old Hickory, a little bit on the Cumberland River. And through that, I started meeting some friends and eventually transitioned to traveling around for some more national level tournaments. And I never would have thought it'd taken me to where it's taken me now. And I said, this last couple of years, I've pretty much been doing it, I'd say almost full time. I've had a power washing business for the last 20 years. Well, power wash decks and fences. So I'll still do a little bit of that, but the tournament life is, the last couple of years anyways, been keeping me busy enough to mostly be pursuing that.
That's awesome. That was actually one of the questions I posed in our local club, is Grubby Grassroots Bass Yakking. And so, you'll know names like Mike Elsey, Brian Sparks, these Matt Kiefer, these are the guys that we have to deal with locally, because Indiana seems to put out plenty of hammers that Definitely. Go out, I'm sure you run into them quite often. And it's fun to know that, because that was one of the questions one of our guys, Ryan Lundy, had was, who do you work for that allows you to be able to travel so much, and are they hiring? Well, it seems like a lot of your situation is kind of like what I noticed with a lot of the folks that kind of have to do that, is they're self-employed or, run their own business. And that's, part of it. They work when they can. Our friend Glenn Landstrom, same thing, he works on houses and things like that too. And he does the tournament thing as much as possibly can too. So
yeah, having a flexible schedule definitely is something that helps out a lot with trying to pursue doing these tournaments and stuff like that.
Yeah. And so with that being said, it's, a lot of people don't realize it's not like you're KVD and flying into locations and being put up in the best hotels. And tell everybody kind of like what your travel arrangements are and what you do for most of your tournaments. Yeah,
I do have a number of sponsors, that help out. And Dakota Lithium is one of them that does help out with accommodations as far as traveling and stuff like that. They'll usually provide, either depending on where we're staying, either an Airbnb, where we'll have a number of the guys on the pro staff who all stay in the houses and Airbnb together, anywhere from, sometimes it's 3 people, sometimes it's 10 people. A lot of times I'll camp out. The weather's nice. It's something that I really enjoy doing, is just camping out. And, I've set up my truck too. I've had a truck for, back in 2004, I got it, and got almost 500,000 miles on it. And as of a few years ago, I think once 2020 hit, I kind of designated it as my fishing truck. I got another truck for more personal use. And the truck that I use for fishing actually ripped out the back seats and the passenger seat. And the back seats, I have a couple really large kind of storage boxes that I built that have some foam padding on top. And a lot of times I'll sleep back there, even if we stay in an Airbnb. I've made it so it's pretty comfortable in there. And in the heat of summertime, it's tough when it's too hot, but
Yeah.
Most times I'd say I spend probably over 100 nights a year just sleeping in the back of my truck there. And I have, I have a couple in one of the storage compartments. I have a couple 100 amp hour Dakota lithium batteries, and that'll power I have a little refrigerator. So where my passenger seat is, I took that out, just put like a little plank there. So I have a little refrigerator there. And that power source also is useful for charging like my Torqeedo batteries or my smaller Dakota lithium fish finder batteries, stuff like that. When it's really cold, I actually use it for I'll put an electric blanket there. I have a little inverter. I also have a DC to DC charger. So when I'm driving around, from spot to spot, it'll actually bypass the truck battery once that's full, and it'll charge those 200 amp hour Dakota lithium batteries. So,
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, pretty much self-sustainable, where I'll be able to, as long as I'm driving, 30, 40 minutes a day or whatever, it'll charge up those batteries pretty quick, and really allows me to cut down expenses. And especially that's a big thing too, is just being able to have that refrigerator and having food there. Because that's a big part of the expense of traveling is just eating out. That'll really just add up, going out to restaurants and having to rely on that. So I usually spend a day before I'll go out and spend, half a day or whatever, and pre-cook a bunch of meals and stuff like that. And it also just saves time too. Just after getting off the water, time's limited. I like to get as many hours on the water as I can. A lot of times I'm fishing, past dark, and it's nice to just be able to get off the water, have some food ready, and, do whatever map study I need to do, and then get back after it the next day. So cuts on costs and allows me to just have more time to focus and
even eat healthier, because a guy like you that and that makes sense too, having you, because I've seen some of the, and that's one of the things I thought was so fascinating with having Little follow you around during the NC, was people don't realize how much actual work or physical work it can be, especially back when you guys are allowed to drag kayaks and whatever it takes. It's me. I have an all-down auto.
Yeah, and just the repetitive motion. I've started to get like a little bit of tennis elbow in my arm, like right here. So it's just stuff like that. Maintaining your body, maintaining your health and stuff it's important. And
definitely got me motivated. I've started losing. I peaked out at 350 last year, and I've lost 50 this year just because.
Awesome.
I was fishing with Jeremy and our buddy Bobby, and we were dragging our yaks up over some, like little ripple and stuff like that too. And it was funny because I was like, man, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if my knee will take it. And I did it. And these two will tell you, I was like celebrating when we got the kayaks over, and we kept going upriver, because we fish a lot of lakes and ponds, even though we grew up kind of creek fishing when we were little. But, we never really, we've just, from coming from the boat side where it's all big lakes, and that's kind of what we grew, kind of have done for the last 20 years. Now that we've been hitting like the White River here in Indiana is full of smallies. And, I got out last week and caught my PB smallmouth, and I'm like, oh Lord, I need to go spend a whole lot more time doing this.
Yeah, that's where it's at. If I had one type of, fishing to pursue, and I can only do one thing for the rest of my life, it'd be river smallmouth for sure.
Oh yeah, we definitely got the bug. Jeremy, I know you got some questions.
Well, my question is really about the Classic, because I was wondering, in practice, did you figure it out and know that you had the fish to win, or were you still looking going into the first day of the tournament trying to figure it out?
So, so that tournament in particular, I had a lot of tournaments just back to back to back, all spread. I looked at my schedule and I was like, there's no way like I'm going to be able to do all these. Like I'm going to have to miss one of these. And every week it went by and I'm just like, screw it. I'm doing this one. I'm doing I did them all. I still can't believe that I did all those tournaments and made it through without having any truck problems or just But those weeks that I did have off in between, I was just slammed with trying to get things done. And I went a 2.5 month period where I think I was home about 8 days or so. That was actually the biggest chunk. I think I was home about 5 days before that tournament, and had to get all my taxes done, count all my receipt, like had a lot to get done. So I only actually got a day and a half, not even a day and a half. I think the tournament started Wednesday, right? Yeah. Tournament started Wednesday. I got up there at Monday at like 5:30. So I went, I only had about an hour and a half before dark, and I decided to check out an area that I knew wouldn't take me long to check out. It was close enough to a boat ramp. It was an area where I actually caught one close to 10. I don't know if it was 10 pounds, but it was close to 10 pounds pre-fishing for was it the Hobie last year, I believe, out there, just out on the main river. The water was way down. It was about 7 feet down, about as bottomed out as it can get. And on this section of main lake, main river, there's some backwater areas. But I knew with the low water conditions, it was going to push some of those backwater fish out onto that main river was my thought. So I went there in the evening, only had like an hour and a half, caught 3 fish. One of them was like a 5-pounder, like a 20-incher. And that's all I had. I left that and I was like, all right, like there's at least a good size. I got a few bites and there's at least some big ones around here. I got one big one, but I really did have no idea. I told myself I saw enough to say, yeah, I'll start here if I had to. And if I found something better, I found something better, but I at least felt like there was something there, but I really didn't know that I didn't go into it at all. There's other tournaments where I'm like, oh man, like this has the fish to win it. This wasn't one of those. This is just one of those where, and sometimes it's better that way. Sometimes it's better just to have a little piece of the puzzle. And like the day I went out there pre-fishing that evening, it was slick, calm. And there was main river. There was some stumps and stuff on the water. And I threw a number of baits, but the only thing I can get bit on was like a Nico rig Senko. And then, so fast forward. So the next day, Tuesday, fished an area way up the Hiwassee. Only caught 1 fish. I was like, this definitely isn't going to cut it. So I guess I'm going to that spot where I spent an hour and a half on that first day. So I went there. I had 8 different rods rigged, and the conditions were completely different. It was cold. It was rainy. It was some pretty miserable fishing conditions.
Yeah.
And I was really rotating lures like fat. I had no idea like what was really going to work or what was. Yeah, I really just went into it kind of with an open mind and started throwing a crankbait for a little bit, started throwing spinner bait, and maybe my 3rd or 4th lure I picked up was a swim bait. And the first bite that I got on it it's like a 22, I think it's like 22 and a half, but super fat. It's probably a 7-pounder. And it was just on a stump. I was reeling that swim bait along the side of a stump, maybe in 3 to 5 feet of water. And actually, right as I got to the stump and I was pulling it up off the stump back to the kayak, it was probably 2 feet from the boat. The thing hit, ran underneath the kayak towards the back of the motor. It was a pretty good fight. Then after that, it gave me enough confidence to say, hey, let's see what happens if I just keep this in my hand for a while. Started getting a few more fish. And I after I got a limit, then I kind of stopped throwing the swim bait because it was kind of a limited amount of water. There wasn't a lot of twists and turns or pockets and coves. It was just pretty much straight embankment. I went already up and down on about a mile or 2 stretch, and I hit most of the stumps already. So then midway through the day, like I kind of slowed off of it and tried to find other patterns and tried to throw some other stuff just to not show them the swim bait, because I knew I wanted to catch some of those fish the next day. I knew the more I threw that swim bait, the more they were going to kind of, get an idea about it. So, but yeah, ended the day, was like 3rd, maybe something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, 3rd. And next day went out there, and in the first half hour, 40 minutes, I got 3 fish back to back to back on the swim bait. I was like, oh, it's going to go down today. Then I missed quite a few, maybe the next 5-6 bites. They were just short striking it. Finally got my 4th one, maybe 8:30, 9 o'clock, and I had about 6 hours left. I'm like, all right, I got 6 hours. All the fish I got are pretty solid. Like, I just need to catch one more solid fish. Like, I'm just going to keep the swim bait in my hand. And I didn't make another cast with anything else for a couple hours, 2-3 hours probably. I just stuck with it. And eventually I'm like, looks like I'm going to be in trouble here if I don't try to mix it up. So I started using some other lures for another hour or two, like still nothing. And then eventually I had about an hour and a half left, and I decided just to abandon everything. The water was actually coming back up I think is what really changed. And the fish were really transitioning. They were, I think they were moving into the backwaters now that the water was rising. So they were getting off that main lake, main river, and they were starting to move in. So I looked on my mapping, and I was like, all right, there's a backwater down here. It took me about an hour and a half to go. So I spent about half hour just to get to this backwater, and just started junk fishing. I mean, it was just like pre-fishing all over again. On the motor down there, with my Torpedo, I rigged up a bunch of different baits, a bunch of stuff that I hadn't even used at all yet, since it's going to be a little different fishing in that backwater. And eventually caught my fifth and final keeper on a red Lucky Craft crankbait, square bill. It was just barely hooked, like in the corner of the mouth on the back treble. Had about 25 minutes or so left, and got the fish in the boat, and it was a sense of relief for sure. I didn't know if it would.
I know, because everybody else out here who was watching the leaderboard when they shut it off, it's like
4 fish. They had 4 fish when it shut off. So it was. Oh man, that fish it was pretty nerve wracking. Just that whole 5-6 hour period leading up to it. But a big part of a big part of me catching that fish was just my ability just to kind of stay calm. There's times where I'd make a bad cast, or I'd get snagged, and I'd feel myself like just start to get impatient or get frustrated. But I was kind of consciously would talk myself out of like letting those things kind of rattle me, and I'm just like, I don't have time to be upset. I don't have time to get rattled right now. Like, this is serious. I have to just do everything I can do. And at the end of the day, if I don't get that 5th fish, like, all right, then get upset. But right now, like, I just told myself there's not any time for that.
Right.
Because I ran into you while you were working at the Dakota Lithium booth before the weigh-in.
Yeah. Right.
So, yeah, we had that conversation. So I was like, I know you can't say anything.
Yeah. I did tell a couple people I wanted fish. I didn't know that I wanted, until even when I was up on stage. I know Damien, he's out from California. That's where I grew up, and from the West Coast there. And he's one of the top anglers from the West Coast. And he wasn't submitting his fish until after the leaderboard got turned off. So he didn't have service, I guess, where he was. So I knew that he's an awesome fisherman, and I was a little concerned. He was the one person, and I was like, he could definitely have him. And he did catch him pretty good. He ended up in second, but I just had enough to beat him out.
I like how they did it where they called in the top 10. They paid out everybody else, and then in the top 10 spots, brought all of you onto stage in no particular order. And that was really kind of cool to see, because Jeremy and I are both life members of Bass, so we're sitting down, right in front of you guys, and it was really cool to see, from the pit, the way they did that too. But I had when you told me at the Dakota booth that you caught your 5th, I told Jeremy, I said, "Oh, dude, I think he's got a shot." So it was really cool from a fan standpoint. Yeah.
The fact that we were right there in the live well, watch. And for us, that was the highlight of the Classic, was seeing you actually hold that trophy up, because we knew what you've done in the past. And then to see it come together with this, we were like, it was really cool.
It was a special moment for, like, definitely, I put on a list of, like, some of the things I'm most proud of, or the most special moments in my life. That would be right up there. I've followed Bassmaster since I was a little kid watching that, and I've always had dreams of getting up on that stage, and to be able to just to get up on the stage was a big accomplishment. I was
that was really cool. They did it
on top.
They did a great job at that. It was really cool.
They did, and Steve-O just taking over and taking the reins, and really just making so many good decisions and so many changes that needed to be made. I'm really grateful that Bassmaster has the confidence in him to kind of take that leadership role and just take this sport to the next level.
Yeah, because he was running tournaments in like the club areas like you guys were into. Because like I said, me and Jeremy are kind of late to the whole game too. We just started doing the KBF stuff, a couple years ago. But as fans, because we like doing it, but also being able to go and watch you guys do, even after the KBF NC, you were sitting there after winning like everything that there is to win, helping break down the stage and, chit chatting with, guys like me and Jeremy, just, talk about, what it was like. And, it was really cool. We became instant fans. We're like, is he a younger guy? Is he an older guy? We don't,
it didn't matter. You treated us like we were friends. And so for us, we walked away from that going, man, this is something we could be a part of. And it was that interaction with you and how you took the time. I was like, yeah, I found a home. And so for us,
you guys saying that. That's really nice of you to say that. I'm glad I could just inspire others to pursue fishing, to pursue tournament fishing and kayaks, and anything I can help do to grow the sport. And I try to do the best I can to be a positive role model, or and just try to treat people the way I want to be treated.
100%. And that's really what we're all about.
Community. There's just so many guys, that's how they are, and there's so many guys, especially in the kayak, in the bass boat world too, but even more so in the kayak world, where people are just there to help one another.
Bend over backwards and help you out in any way. It's like Jeremy and I met Lynn Yester and Alex Miller out on the water, and they didn't know us from Adam, but we sit there and talked to them for like 2 hours, pre-fishing, and we told them, hey, we're just here, stargazing, if you will, checking out all the superstars that we watch on YouTube and all this other stuff too, and it's just really cool. But going back to what you said at the very beginning, it's like that with like the kayak clubs, because a lot of people do and get into this because it's a great way to meet other kayak anglers, and like you said, find float friends and things like that. And Jeremy and I have done that with with several people that we've met and that are now good friends with, and to go out and start doing either river floats, or like for us, go out and hit the ponds and lakes and places where we fish too. But the kayak community itself as a whole is just filled with so many awesome people. It's not even funny. And you can be, you can be the guy like me that shows up to catch a dink at a tournament and, but have a blast while you're doing it, to, watching the guys who really, lay the smack down on them every tournament, and everybody will tell everybody this is what I was doing, and and all that too. But I guess I have a question for you too. How does a guy from California come out to like the Midwest and become like a smallie master? I mean,
they got smallmouth out in California. California is such
okay. I didn't know. I just assumed it was all Lake Castaic and giant 20-pound bass, and
no, it's very versatile. No, Southern California, maybe not so much. Northern California, we have everything from. I spent a lot of time on the California Delta, which is a tidal fishery, shallow water, grass and reeds, and similar, almost like something you'd see in Florida, except with more canals, and there's some riprap bank and stuff, and lay down. There's a little bit of everything, a lot of docks, but it's a shallow water fishery. And then you go to lakes like Lake Shasta, Lake Oroville, which are these super clear, deep highland reservoirs. Predominantly, they have mostly spotted bass, but some smallmouth and largemouth. And there's other lakes like Berryessa and Folsom, which all three species are. You're just as likely to catch a largemouth than you are a smallmouth or a spot. So it's almost divided down the middle. So there's some good smallmouth fishing. And Berryessa and Folsom are probably a couple examples, but there's a number of lakes there. And there's probably more clear water fishing than there is dirty water. So we do have the Delta and then Clear Lake. Sorry, water. Clear Lake is a lake that has a little bit of everything. It's a natural lake. The deepest point I think is 40 feet, but there's a lot of grass, a lot of docks, offshore fishing, ledges, rock piles, island tops, the canals and creek. Clear Lake it's probably one of the most versatile fisheries that there is. It is pretty small in comparison to some of these other lakes we have out in the south, and but it's it's a kind of testament to how why so many of these elite series anglers that that grew up in California do so well, on these national tours, because it really growing up there, it prepares you for any kind of situation. You look at Zaldane, Mark Daniels, Justin Lucas, Cody Meyer, and all those guys. Those are guys I spent competing against back when I lived in California. But so many of those guys that have transitioned to the fishing other parts of the country really feel comfortable no matter where they're at. And living here in Tennessee, it's there was some big differences too that I had to learn. It took me a while. There's certain things, like I said, a lot of things kind of transitioned, but there was definitely a learning curve to coming out here and fishing some of this stuff. But over time, I kind of adapted. I've been in the kayak. In the kayak tournaments too, they're a little more focused around shallow water fisheries. There are some deep, clear water, like Hartwell is kind of an exception, where I had to fish some clear water. Tried to fish some dirty water up there last weekend when I was there, but it wasn't happening. But more cases than not, I've been able to get by with just a simple, Helix 7 on my Wilderness Systems Attack 120. I have a Wilderness Systems Recon, which has two, 9-inch Garmin and a 10-inch Humminbird, and has the live scope and all that. But I've still been able to get by. I've used it like pre-fishing and just fun fishing, but come tournament time, just every time pretty much I've been able to find some sort of like shallow water power fishing or flipping or something where I can. This last one I did sight fishing, just fishing on beds and stuff. But I've been able to stay away from having to rely on my electronics. I use my electronics, but like I said, I just have a 7-inch Humminbird, and I'll use the side imaging a little and see how deep it is and the mapping. But if we go up to some of these smallmouth fisheries up north, or some of these other highland reservoirs where it'll be dominated with live scope, then I'd probably be in trouble. I'm probably not going to cash a check, to be honest.
That's where Casey Reed's going to come through with his live scope and shake her the mega imaging in the shaky head.
Christine or whoever.
Yep. So Bluegrass Bass, I wanted to know, what swim bait were you throwing down at the Classic?
I was throwing the Bass Mafia Zaldangerous 7-inch with a 10-aught owner beast hook, 1/2 ounce. And I was throwing it on an iRod Gen 3, the Junior Swim. It's a 7'8", really good for like 5 to 7-inch swim baits, and 20-pound Seaguar fluorocarbon.
Okay, gotcha. Did you pick up that swim bait while you were on his podcast with Trait?
He showed it to me, the prototype. Yeah, when I was on the podcast, he was still in the development stages of that, but he's hyping it up, and it's an awesome bait. I really like it. Similar to the Mag Draft, but there are quite a few differences in it too. It's a flatter bottom. You can reel it at a little faster speed. Comes in a lot better colors, and the hook slot. They basically took the Mag Draft and really made some improvements.
Made it better.
Yeah.
He's got a lot more creative freedom, I think, where he's at with those guys right now. So that makes it really nice. He can get the baits where he wants them. 100% too. So one of the things I want to talk about too is, okay, so if somebody, a lot of new anglers getting out kayaks for the first time, I always talk to them, watch Fluke Masters video, Chad Hoover, Jeff Little, especially when you're talking about safety and things like that, how to paddle and, be safe in the kayaks. And, guys like that do a really good job of teaching the basics and trying to keep people, safer when they're out on the water. Obviously I get for me, get a kayak that's big enough to support what I'm doing. But what do you recommend a lot of times if somebody says, hey, I see what you're doing, I like it, I want to come fish some of the club stuff with you too? What do you look for in a kayak for, beginners to kind of get them started? And what do you suggest to them, a lot of the times?
Well, I'm still fishing out of the first kayak I ever bought, which was a little over 6 years ago. I got the Attack 120. And I think starting out, a lot of people think they have to jump right into like a pedal drive or a Hobie or whatever in order to compete. And you really don't. I mean, look at Drew Gregory and what he's done with his shoal, with the Crescent kayaks, and just how simplified those are. Jordan Marshall's had a lot of success too, without even using a fish finder or anything like that. And Paddle kayaks, I think, are great. One recommendation is if you do get a paddle kayak, put in a rudder with foot steering. And I think that's the one thing that can make the biggest improvement as far as just boat positioning and just being able to maneuver, and it'll, otherwise you're going to be dealing with some headaches if the wind's blowing, you're getting spun around everywhere, and just being able to have that foot steering. I'd rather paddle the attack, as long as it's not like crazy windy. If it's like 15 miles an hour or less, I'd rather be able to take a few strokes and paddle and cast and be able to use my feet to like steer the kayak one way or another than use a pedal kayak and then having to turn down, like, let's say I'm using a pedal kayak and I make a cast with a buzz bait and I'm pedaling along, and all of a sudden I'm like halfway, my buzz bait's halfway back and my boat starts turning one way, and also I got to reach down and make that adjustment with the hand control for the rudder. That I don't like ever being out of position. I feel like I'm out of position less if I can take the time just to take a couple strokes of the paddle, put it on my lap, and then use that foot steering to be able to, especially if I'm like especially if you're power fishing, if you're fishing a crankbait, a spinner bait, a buzz bait, anything like that. If you're fishing plastics on the bottom, then, around docks or something like that, then a pedal kayak I think is great. It doesn't matter if you're fishing a worm and you're leaving it there on the bottom and you need to turn to make an adjustment, you're going to be all right. You're not going to get out of position. But if you're throwing moving baits or reaction baits, being able to be as hands-free as possible, I think is ideal.
I think at one point in time, I saw you make a comment where you position your throttle for your motor so that you can hit it with your elbow, so that you can still keep both hands where you need it at both times.
Yeah, the torpedo kind of just right on my side right here, and I'll just use my elbow. So I'm still fishing. And if I'm moving forward, I want to stop, I'll just bump it back and it'll click in. I'll continue fishing and make a cast. I want to move it forward, I'll just bump it with my elbow. And that way I'm never having to let go of the rod. Even when I'm here bumping it, I'm still in position. So I'm never getting out of position with that torpedo throttle. It's a little sensitive. It takes a little getting used to. Some people are like, make it seem like people think it's difficult, but I don't know. I think maybe the first day or two, but you get used to it. And I think that's the way to go. I'd much rather have that than have like a bow mount motor where you have to, again, take your hand off the rod and try to steer with a little remote control. Or I'm a big believer in the foot steering and just being in position for that hook set at all times.
Yeah, because I've got an autopilot, but I much prefer using the feet control. I will set it, forward and then, set a speed, so to speak. But then like you said, I like using the foot control too. It does make it nice. Jeremy, I have another, but do you have a question for him before I hog all his time?
No, go ahead, and then I do have a quick question.
Let me just grab a little at my throat. I got something.
Yeah, you go right ahead. We do this here and there, so we always come. How cool is this when you can pick the brain of a guy who just lays the smack down on him? So my question is, so I haven't chased smallies forever, right? So if you're going to give some advice to somebody who's, mostly chased largemouth and, we're starting to delve into fishing more of the rivers and chasing smallies, and, we've got them, dinks up to monsters up here in Indiana. We're pretty blessed that way. I didn't even realize this until people started kayak fishing on the rivers, because back, until recently, when, that last 10 years, it was always the guys in the jet boats that were all finding the places on the river and whatnot. But now that we're into kayak fishing and we're hitting the river a lot more, what kind of baits, I guess, would you tell somebody new to smallmouth fishing to start with? And then what kind of things like in the river would you have somebody to start look for to be the most productive on the water, I guess?
For smallmouth in the rivers, a good thing to do, I actually heard Chad Hoover talk about it one time, is use have lures that'll go all three different like water columns. Have something that's going to be on the bottom, have something that's going to be in the middle of the water column, on the bottom, something like a jig or a Ned rig or whatever, soft plastic on the bottom, something for that middle range, like a spinner bait, would be a good example. Sometimes crankbaits, and have something on the top of the service and kind of rotate. Once you kind of figure out what part of the water column on the river that they're fishing, that's kind of the first step. The second step would be trying to develop a pattern for how much current they want. If they want to be in the middle of fast current, if they're going to be in just kind of a slow, steady current, if they're going to be position themselves on the eddies, or if they're going to be like in the slack water areas or areas completely out of the current. And I think those are probably the two main things to try to focus on or figure out as quick as possible is where in the water column they're feeding and how much current. And that'll sometimes change throughout the day. They might be eating top water in the morning, and then all of a sudden the sun comes out and they hunker down. You're gonna have to drag something on the bottom for them. But always go a little smaller, especially with smallmouth, especially in the rivers. They will eat big swim bait. I know for the national championship, I was fishing a river at a Kentucky lake there, and I was catching them on, a couple of big smallmouth on a mag draft swim bait. So the big swim baits do work, but more times than not, you can catch big smallmouth on little baits. I like that. Yeah, crankbaits, spinner baits. I don't throw spinner baits. I caught spinner bait fish in the river, but I'd say I'd probably throw crankbaits more. Throw a lot of buzz baits. I love throwing a buzz bait in the river, especially in summertime, or a whopper plopper. I'd say buzz bait probably more. I throw whopper ploppers more in the lakes for smallmouth, and buzz baits more in the rivers probably for smallmouth, I'd say.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
I was trying to throw a bunch of Ned rigs in the river a couple weekends ago, and I guess lesson I've learned from a friend of mine who fishes a lot in the river a lot more than I do was I'm using too heavy of a Ned. I need like the lightest, because it's like every cast it was like in the rocks, and it's like how am I? He's like, man, he says I make my own, and I make them the smallest I possibly can.
You
and
almost
so
want
Jeremy's
it
been
so that current, you want it so if you cast out up current and it's drifting back, you want it to almost drift at the same speed of the current and just have it like not just basically reeling in the slack, and naturally that thing is just ticking the bottom. If
the current carry it over the rocks and everything,
carrying it more than you're pulling it. But if the current, if you're not hitting the bottom, if you cast it up current and it's drifting and you're reeling up the slack and you're not even feeling the bottom, then you need to go a little heavier. If you cast out there and you're feeling it and it's in the rock and you're having to like really pull it through the rocks a lot, then you probably want to go a little lighter. You want it so it's just heavy enough to bounce along the bottom, and you just barely have to like lift it every once in a while just to get it to kind of bounce down a little. It'll stick, and then just lift it up a little, it'll bounce down a little. That's kind of my theory. I use a lot of 1/4 to 3/8 ounce jigs. If it's light current, I'll use a little 1/4 ounce jig. If it's a little heavier current, or if I'm flipping, sometimes I'll use even like a 1/2 ounce. If I'm flipping, like when I was in Kentucky Lake for the KBF NC, I was flipping like a 1/2 ounce just because I was fishing these big laydowns where
that water was moving too.
Ripping, yeah. And I tried to find these little eddies, or anywhere there was a laydown, you'd have like the trunk end, like or the trunk and all the roots would be here, and then the laydown would come down here, and those fish would be positioned like right there, kind of in that little seam, or it would hit the roots, and there'd be a little seam right in that root ball. And you'd have to get pretty close. If you cast at it too far away, too much of your line is going to be on the water, and it's going to pull out of there. So it's really a balance of getting close enough so you can cast up there and keep your line off that water, and just keep it right there in that little pocket where the water's spinning around a little bit. But you needed a pretty heavy weight still, like a 1/2 ounce. Otherwise, that current would take it out of that strike zone.
It goes to show the power of the motor that you're using and the quality of the batteries that you have to have. Because when we were sitting there watching, Jeff's videos from your practice sessions between each of the days, we'd go back to the B&B, and our buddy Matt would be cooking up some wonderful barbecue, and we're like, oh shoot, Jeff's putting out a video on Cody and Russ and their adventures before. Holy cow, this is and it we're out here on a main lake in some cove somewhere. And it's like these guys are fishing in a whole different world than we are right now. But I mean,
Yeah.
that's part of it too, is, fishing what your strength is. And we're out there running around with Casey Reed and Alex Miller making circles around us, but that's the cool thing about it, is when they hit these different bodies of water, you can find what, you fish your strengths in. And it just, you guys are just laying down smack down on smallies like I'd never seen before. But what when you throw nets and things like that, do you stick with like Seaman type stuff where it's more buoyant, I guess it is, or do you have like a favorite that you like to play with?
What'd you say when I was throwing Neds? I didn't hear that last part.
What kind of soft plastics do you like using on that? Like the Z-Man Elastec or something?
I throw some of the Z-Man Elastec Neds. I wouldn't say it's like one of my go-tos, but I've caught fish on those. I end up throwing a tube a little bit more. Use like a little jig head that kind of inserts, but it has like two little wire weed guards. So it comes through the rocks and stuff pretty good. Not so much the wood, but if I'm dragging through rocks, I'll throw that tube with those little wire weed guards a lot. I throw a lot of like Nico rig Senkos or Nico rigged worms, stuff like that. As far as plastics, I don't fish a ton of plastics. I'll fish another one. I'll fish is just a shaky head with a little like ultra vibe speed craw or any like small car, a little smally beaver, something like that. That's probably one of my go-tos, I'd say, just as far as like a finesse little plastic that's worked along the bottom.
Sweet.
Wow. We got some things to try now, bro.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's funny because, one of the fish I caught, on the river was thrown on the shaky head. And, the other one was, I was really, cranking a thunder cricket through some heavy current we found. And, it was just, it was a good thing. But it's like I couldn't find, we saw them busting on topwater. So I was throwing, a Chapo over there trying to get their attention. And, not really having a game plan myself. It was just, I was out there to kind of learn. And then, but I knew when we would get Russ on, I was like, I got some questions because, we got a guy who knows how to lay the smack down on them. So, that'll help me out in better preparing, coming up. Because as Russ knows, mayhem is coming. And for those of us who don't travel and do all of the big stuff, it's one of the ways that, Joe Working Dude can qualify to go to the national championship. And, we love the fact that they offer something like that so that, your regular dudes can find a way to qualify in and go do exactly what we did. Go hang out, fish with, and meet the stars of the industry, so to speak. Do you have another question, Jeremy?
Yeah. So you've accomplished so much. What's a goal that you have moving forward?
I guess the Hobie TOC or either that or the Angler of the Year. I haven't won the Hobie TOC or their AOI. I've been very close in the AOI, and every time it comes down to like just one day, I've been right there. And then it's always the second day of the TOC that something happens, or in one case, it was the first day, I guess. But yeah, I'd say maybe that's my goal this year, and I'm off to a good start in the Angler of the Year race for Bassmaster too. So there's 2 of the 5. There's 3 more tournaments, and currently I'm leading. It's a very tight race between, I think, the top 4 or 5 are all within a few points of each other, and it's early in the season, but that's definitely something that I'm kind of striving to accomplish is to.
Because you were the first, if I remember, you were the first to actually win an event from each of the 3 Bassmaster, KBF, and a Hobie, winning actual tournaments. And so now that you've won the championships for the other 2, that only leaves you with the Hobie TOC to kind of chase after and focus on now, huh? That and
Angler of the Year. Yeah, the Angler of the Year, and just qualifying for Hobie Worlds has been something that's
that'd be cool.
A lot to do. And I've so close, like a 4. I think I finished 4th, 1 out this year, and like I've been really close. I love to experience anytime I could, travel overseas and go to a new place. For the USA Kayak team, we went over to Chichiu, Mexico earlier this year. About 8 of us or so, and Mike Elsey was there with us for that. And but a lot of my good friends were there as well, and that was just a really cool experience. And
when Christine gave her kayak
Yeah,
to
to
that
Carla. Yeah.
Mexican angler. Oh, just hit
I
you
was
right in the feels.
that literally brought tears to my eyes. It was
Yeah.
just such a nice thing that she did for Carla, and she was just a very well deserving person. Her and her whole family, Carla and her husband, her 2 kids, they're just super passionate about fishing. So they're living down there in Mexico. I think they had one, Jeeper kayak that they were kind of all taking turns using between the 4 of them or whatever, and. So for them to get another kayak and for it to be a Hobie like that was just completely all rigged out was
that was really cool.
that was really cool.
But
really cool.
That just goes to show the spirit of our whole community. I mean, it doesn't matter how high you are or how far down on the bottom you are. Everybody, it's just, it's a good bunch of people, and I love seeing the sport grow across all of the various trails. I mean, Jeremy and I love tracking you guys everywhere you go. And, it makes it fun to be a fan too. It doesn't matter if you're at, the 10 house or if you're at the Hobie Worlds or, like you said, holding up that trophy on the Bassmaster Classic stage. It's a great time to be a kayak angler because, I mean, I'll tell you what, the sport's growing, it's growing fast. And with good people like you and others that are out there leading the way, it just makes it awesome. And it makes more people want to participate in it as well.
Yeah, or we can just grow the sport and get others into it, especially younger kids and stuff like that. We're starting to see more and more, but I'd really like to see the high school and the college programs really take off because that's where the future is in our sport is getting those younger people involved. And it's such a good. Not to put down the bass boats at all, but it's sometimes the college anglers and high school anglers are so focused on these bass boat tournaments, and really it's kind of an unrealistic thing that they're put into because you get out of college and like who can afford a $70,000-$80,000, $30,000 bass boat and all the expenses that come along with it. And there's just so many more opportunities, I believe, in kayak fishing, just even with sponsors and endorsements and just with how fast the sport's growing. I just really hope that younger kids can see the opportunities that are available and the prize money that's available. It's they pay back well. And
I was talking to Chad, and he's talking about he's starting up a high school sponsorship kind of thing, and then like where he's even doing like the Knucklehead Bass Fishing Series thing, where you have more of a recreational side of it. $15 entry fee. It's kind of like the state challenge series. And at the end of the year, I mean, he's in even like the Catch 22 stuff.
Yeah,
I've got I got a Jackson Coosa kayak out here that somebody, John Gittner won here in Indiana just for being just for playing in the Catch 22 to raise money for Heroes on the Water. So it's cool to see, the sport growing across both pro level, recreational level. Jeremy and I do a lot of it for veteran recreational therapy. That's our big thing with our Freedom Squad guys. You see us wearing our jerseys. That's what that's all about. So it's really cool to be a part of that and, watching the sport grow across all the various levels too. It just makes it that fun. So Hook Life wants to know where we can find Russ across social media.
Just my name, Russ Snyders. Russ has 1 S, R-U-S. Last name, Snyders, S-N-Y-D-E-R-S. It's Instagram, Facebook. That's all I got. YouTube. I started a YouTube channel as Russ Snyders Fishing. I kind of started last winter when I had a little bit of free time, put a couple videos out, and I've been so busy with tournaments, tons of footage. So maybe when I get some free time, I could use some of that footage and help promote that YouTube channel a little bit too.
Yep, that's always the fun part of it too. That's seems like I spend more time doing YouTube than I do fishing, so I know how that goes.
Yeah, it's a balance.
Well, good sir, we are not going to keep you on too late tonight because my old ass.
I kept you guys up a little later. I'm sorry for getting the time.
It's all good, dude. We couldn't pass up this opportunity. You and I have been playing tag back and forth for a little while now, and again, I thank you so much for taking the time, come out and talking to us tonight, and hopefully we can reach out to some more people, get them interested in the sport, and get started. When you have ambassadors of the sport like you to come out and take time to talk to guys like us, it just shows, how great this sport truly is. And, to me, the potential is unlimited. I mean, we can make this as big as we want to.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to talk to you and have me on the show. And it was, I really enjoyed it.
Now, are you
Thank
going to
you
be
very
at
much.
the? Are you going to be at the state challenge series championship in October?
I believe so. Is that on Wheeler, right? State Challenge.
It's
Yeah.
Wheeler or
Yeah.
Gunnerville, I think, because I
Yep.
know the NC is the following spring, but
Yeah,
we're
I'm definitely excited for that one. There's a chance I'm going to get out to the KBF event at the Delta back in California. I might do another road trip out west, and got to visit my sister.
excellent.
She moved to Idaho, so I might do a little road
Okay.
trip out there to do that KBF event. And I got through the bulk of the tournaments. It seemed like we're pretty early on this year, and
Yeah.
we've got about one a month from here through the rest of the year. So it'll give me some time to play catch up and get everything else done I need to get done. So
Yeah, there you go, and just go fish for fun too.
that too, yeah. Some friends out here, they keep inviting me, and I'm like, oh man, last thing I only have a few days. I've been, it's it'd be nice to be able to spend some time on the water with them. So
All right. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We'll let you get out of here.
all right, you guys have a good night. Talk to you later.
You too. Bye.
Take
All
care.
right. Take care. All right, Jeremy. Well, that leaves us with a frog giveaway to do real quick for those that are still watching and patiently waiting, because I know they're all excited about this. But again, thank you to Russ for coming in. Look, Sly Fox is all good night. Y'all ain't hanging around for the frog giveaway. I mean, somebody don't want this. Somebody don't want this bag of frogs. Is that what y'all telling me? Everybody's like, good night, bye, see you. I think we got to do a giveaway.
I
We know
think
who's
you
going to win.
do.
I think Carol's going to win. Watch. So let me go ahead and pull up StreamYard, and we'll get this giveaway going, and then we will let you guys have the rest of your night back. And I've got to get my booty to bed. StreamYard giveaway. Grab this podcast. Hashtag frog. Frog. Start collecting those comments. Let me share this on the screen. So long as it's not Scott, listen to him. I hope you guys enjoyed that. It's cool, and I really want you guys to see, especially the fishing fam. That's one of the things that Jeremy and I just get so we so love, and it's not about fishing the tournaments and wishing money and stuff like that too. Sure, it's cool. I see Jeremy entered. It's cool and all that too, but the reason why we like it so much is, like Russ said early on in that when we were talking to him, was being able to get out and meet other people, because especially if you're out fishing rivers, or even if you're just doing floats on your ponds, your lakes, just like we do with the Freedom Squad. There'll be 3 or 4 or 5 of us together. Ralph in his boat will come, strolling down, floating down the bank with the kayaks. It doesn't matter. It's a great way to get out, to meet other people and make new fishing friends. I mean, truly it is. And for me, kayaks, you can start out cheap, and Jeremy and I had the Walmart specials, and that's what we started in, and just kind of work your way from there. But just being able to get off the bank and onto the water, it just makes it that much more fun. And I don't know why I'm hitting the invite button when I need to share my screen and bring that back up. But man, I got some Smalley tips that I can.
And I'm ready to go to the river this week.
I'm telling you, man.
You want to come up for a trip?
Yeah. Gramps, did you see what I said? If I win, you have to use I don't have to do. See, that was the funny comments I kept getting in the thing today. Oh, well, you can't use no flappy. I made the rules, peeps.
I was going to ask,
hollow body frog.
What's the next bait challenge?
Yeah, I slayed him on a buzzbait. As soon as I got to put that stupid frog rod down, woo, I started slaying fish, wasting all this time.
Hey,
I literally found a video I did like 2 years ago. 2 years ago about, we're going to be starting this frog challenge. And I was like, oh, good Lord. Who knew that this was going to go that long?
What's your least favorite thing to do besides a frog?
Lease Nedrig.
Oh, well, I know you're going to be throwing Neds because that's a small
Yeah.
account.
No,
Okay.
Flappy Frogs are not kind of cheating. It's a hollow. You want to bitch? Complain to Spro. They made it. It's like they had me in mind. We said hollow body frog. Nobody said crap about walking, popping. How many different types of? I mean, look, I can just go into this bag right here. We'll just let the comments collect. We'll draw this at 10 o'clock and then end the show. But if we go back, it's bad that I can even name half these frogs. Oh, look, a 6 Sense Vega frog. It's like a popping. It's kind of like a popping thing. There's that one. Then we got, oh, look, frog fur. You guys remember this from Mr. Bass? Frog fur. That's right. We got the who was it? The dude who used to fish for Dobbins. And then we got, what did we got here? It's, what even sucks even worse is I probably know, like the Booyah little pad crashers, and you got these little mini ones. And then, I'm pretty sure this one was from Z-Man. And I don't even have all the frogs in here yet. You know what I'm saying? And we got, I can't remember who it is. This one with the mile long. I mean, what are you going to do with all that tail? It needs to be braided hair. And then in this one, I think I don't even remember who made this one. And then you got this one who wants to pretend to be like a propping frog. I think this was the actual Z-Man frog. And then you have, this was Terminator made this one, the tails are all. My wife is in here showing me salsa. Why are you showing me? Oh, you need me to open the salsa for you? There you go.
Thank you.
And that's this. I probably still got 5 or 6 more. I know somewhere in the pile behind me is like the reactions, innovations. One I think that Debo sent me, and then there was a Spro. No. See here, let me emphasize this. Those Terminator frogs are crap. No, they are all crap. All of them, except for the Flappy Frogs. See what I'm saying? Yes, decorations are for Christmas. That's right. That's why. Where's that? Is it back? It's back there behind me somewhere. Oh no, I got to put it back up on the wall. It must have fell. Yeah, I need to. That's right, because I redid my shelves to put my top 100 board up there. But yeah, so I'll dig out the rest of the frogs. But the only frogs I'm keeping one Christmas Party Gone Bad frog that's on the fishing line. That goes on the Fishmas tree. The second one is one that Sly Fox sent me that's still in the package. That will stay up here on the wall. The Freedom Frog, got to keep the Freedom Frog. I got that from Matt. And I'll probably throw that at some point in time when I'm fishing with Freedom Squad. Brennan said he's going to send me all 25 of my Christmas Party Gone Bad frogs. And those will all go in the veterans packages that Jeremy sends out to everybody so that they can hate frog fishing too. Jeremy, they want to know what you think about frog fishing.
I love frogs. I will be posting every frog fish I catch this year. I will be sharing it with all of you so that we can share it with Gramps.
Oh, you know what? Sly's right too, because he sent me a bunch of cash crate stuff, and I actually kept all that because a lot of that was like crappie baits and a mix of other stuff too. But I actually kept that. It's in another box in the garage because I wanted to keep that honestly for the girls' tackle box for when I take them like crappie and bluegill fishing too. So I've got all that too. But yeah, I forgot there was actually a frog in there. I can't give that one away. But I have tons. Yeah, make sure, please, throughout the whole season, when you catch a frogfish. Oh, okay. Brendan said he's gonna work on sending me some baits too, so that's good. So, yes, please tag me in your frogfish, and tag Monster Bass as well, so I can remind Rick to never make a mistake like the Fat Bastard Christmas Party Gone Bad frog again, because you remember. This is where it all started. # frog. Make sure you get entered. But yes, I want everybody. And I just realized who said that. That's Sam. Sam, have you gone out and gone fishing yet, bro? You've been doing a great job covering all the tournament stuff so far this year too. So keep up the great blog, because I'm going to steal it and use it Grubby Talk on Wednesdays from now on. But yes, please. I mean, the funny thing is as much as I hate these stupid ass frogs, it's awesome. You know, it's almost hard to believe that the ride's finally over. You know, pending my reviewing the video and making sure I actually have that on video, because I have the pictures I took. I have the forward facing of me that I looked at, but I haven't actually looked at the video, because I've still got a bunch of video to sort through, but that'll be stuff I'm working on this week too. But again, I want to thank you guys, and it's 10 o'clock and we need to get this drawing going. When is the next Grubby Talk? I'm probably going to try to do them on every other Wednesday, and I will probably set one up for this coming Wednesday for all of my grubby buddies out there too, because we're in mid tournament season, and if I had more time, I would try to do them every week, and we'll see. But I need to get one going, because we've had several tournaments go through. We need to be able to talk about those as well. So let's go ahead and go back to the. We got 39 people still in here waiting to win a frog. Hashtag frog if you want to get in on it. And when you win, you know, we'll get to 40. One more person. I'm not going to enter. Let's get it to 40, and then we will give this thing away. Do we have one more person that wants to win some frogs? You can give them out to all your best friends. You can put them on a jar of tannerite and blow them up with your best friends. You know, there's all kinds of things you can do them. So everybody hashtag frog. Let's get to 40. Are we get to 40? Are we going to be stuck at 39? Or we're going to get to 40? I feel like I'm auctioning off. There it is. 40. Boom, 40. Let's draw. The winner is Cairo. Oh.
Ah! Way to go.
Yes. I don't even need you to tell me.
Fox fishing.
How how the irony. This Oh, this is going to be my favorite box to send out all year long. This is going to be awesome. So, Sly Fox, Mr. You know, the funny thing is he actually won a rod from Monster Bass, or I think he ended up with a gift card for catching the fish on the Christmas Party Gone Bad frog. And now he's going to have all these lovely frogs to be able to throw, and he'll have frogs for days. I can't think of a better way to end this saga. That is the Christmas Party Gone Bad challenge. I think the only thing funnier than this was Gifon's picture entry for Christmas when we had the picture contest using the Christmas Party Gone Bad frog. That was the funniest thing ever. This is right up there with it. Oh, man. Jeremy, did you have fun tonight?
I did.
Oh, what a great way to end the show. This cannot get any better. With that, yeah, you started it and you got to end it. It's 100%. It only took a couple of years, but yeah, we finally got it done. Ladies and gents, thank you for joining us on our first official episode of Two Brothers Fishing. Great time tonight talking about all the things going on, joined by Russ Snyders. Thank you guys for hanging out for almost 2 hours. It's been awesome. I'm going to have to actually split this into 2 separate episodes, and then we'll upload them, you know, that way as well. But thank you guys for joining us. Stay tuned. We will have a Freedom Squad Friday sometime within the next week or two, hopefully this Friday as well, because, hey, we're not going to – yeah, Real Daddy says it's rigged. So stay tuned to KBF and Grubby channels for Grubby Talks coming up on Wednesdays. Jeremy and I will be live on Sundays, you know, from here on out. And we'll still sprinkle in some Freedom Squad Fridays with all of our good friends out there. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Man, what an awesome time. As always, get outside when you can and make some memories. One cast at a time.